Hello, welcome to the second episode of Short and Sweets, where I read a short book and bake something sweet. The purpose of these videos is to have fun and to read a short book, something I can do quickly, and bake a sweet treat, something that I would like to do. Why is this the worst thing that's ever happened to me? That intro that you just saw, I filmed probably 2.5 months ago. This is how far in I am. What the heck? The book is so boring. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's just plotless. It's slice of life. But the main character is so uninteresting. There's nothing interesting happening. And she's not interesting. And so it's not making up for it. Okay, it says a touch of William Gaddis, a touch of Lydia Davis, a touch of Samuel Beckett. I don't know who any of those people are, except didn't Samuel Beckett write Waiting for Godot, which is also a play where nothing happens. They're just sitting around waiting. This book feels entirely unique, quiet and luxurious all at once. I do agree with that part, actually. It is quiet, like nothing's happening. And it is luxurious in that it's flowery beyond belief, the language, which really promotes a vibe for sure. But I feel like that is the invitation to the book. It's like, look at these sentences I made. And some of them sound like a scientific journal. And some of them sound like when I wrote my college admission essay and I would right click on Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever I used back then and looked up the thesaurus feature to look up synonyms. God, it's so disappointing because the cover is so gorgeous. I'm gonna read this. Just give me a second. Let me highlight for you the brain it takes to understand what's being written. This is one sentence. It was soon obvious that this particular observation wasn't simply a fleeting instance of light-hearted self-derogation, and as it achieved increasing firmness in my mind, I felt incredulous and a bit put out that urgent tidings such as these could have remained distant for so long, since it seemed to me the instances upon which they derived foundation were surely not restricted to isolated and uncharacteristic phases, but more or less encompassed the entirety of my romantic career. Look, I feel like I gave that the performance of my life. I really tried to add some character, some dynamics to it, and yeah, I don't think you could tell me what that meant. It's so cruel of the author. What's her name? Claire Louise Bennet. It is so cruel of her to make me have to go back and reread that sentence to understand what was happening. That just is to help you understand why this has actually become a nightmare. And I don't want to read this. I can't read this, but I'm going to read this. Because actually I just read, and it was not that bad, because it was the opposite of that. I just threw my dinner in the bin. I knew as I was making it, I was going to do that. So I put in all the things I never want to see again. I'm going to pretend that I'm smarter than I am. I'm going to pretend that that I'm like an intellectual. And I'm going to sit down, I have tea, I'm going to read, I'm going to take my time. No one's testing me on this. I'm going to try to lean in because for months I've been leaning away. And I'm like, you know what? Let me lean in. Maybe I can learn to enjoy the experience of having to work for meaning. I had already concluded that I was mad at that and that I hated that. But you know what? Sometimes art or literature isn't supposed to be accessible right away. It's okay to work for the meaning. It's not my preference, but now that I know that that's what this is, I'm gonna go ahead and lean into that and take my time and reread and go back and sit with it, and maybe something beautiful can come out of this. As beautiful as the cover, and as beautiful as where I first started reading this, which you saw in the intro. So let me lean into the beauty and actually stop trying to ask it for a plot or character development. Like, maybe it's just beautiful for the sake of beauty. And maybe I can like that if I go in understanding that that can be a mission of a book. So let me do that. I do think this evening lighting with the twinkle lights and the quiet and the cup of tea, like, I do think this is how it's meant to be read. I think it's meant to be read as something, I'm using the word cozy not to define the book, but I think the experience is supposed to be like cozy. Like, I think a beautiful person who looks like a model but didn't pursue modeling because they just love literature too much and they're getting their master's in literature and they like put on their glasses, but when they wear glasses they look like hot. Like, when they put on their glasses it's like, oof, you know what I mean? Like, one curl like falls on their head. That person is reading this and they're just reading it once through. Like, they don't have to go back and reread because they're hot and they're smart. And where was that sentence going? I'm actually really happy with how they came out. They don't look like much, and I chose to opt out of any sort of glazing, truly out of laziness. But it's good, and it's like springs back to life. It's really good. So after many, many more days, weeks, I finally finished. I'm happy to say that I feel quite differently about this than I did at the beginning. There are a lot of things I still stand by, but shifting my own approach to reading this really helped. It really helped me slow down. Being okay with this being a more complicated, unapproachable piece of literature and accepting that and even labeling this as like, okay, this is not approachable. And therefore, I had to put in the effort to read it slowly, read it twice, read it 3, 4, 5 times, the same parts. Pause, make meaning, continue on, doing that again and again. In that way, I feel like it mimicked reading a collection of poems more than my typical experience with reading a novel. Oh God, I probably understood very little of this, if I'm being honest. I think thematically, there's a lot I missed. I would say as well, like vocabulary. Truly just a lot of words that I don't know and couldn't quite pick up the context as easily because every other word was a word I wasn't sure about. Sometimes I decided to look up what the word meant, but often I just was like, okay, let me just sit with that word for a second. What could it mean in this context? Where have I heard that before? I really approached this as a student. And I actually ended up liking it. Like, I ended up liking the narrator by the end, even though I do think she is extremely boring. And also her inner life is so rich and so full of the most random thoughts and musings. And there were a few times where I actually like giggled out loud to myself. And there were a lot of times where I was like, oh, I think I've thought something similar to that. It's such a wild thing to think. And yeah, I think she captured something that I've experienced internally, but she was able to put words to it that made me realize like, oh my God, I've been there before. I've been at that thought process before. The narrator is so mindful. She's so present and in the moment that for a while I thought that perhaps the setting was like pre-phones or pre a lot of technology, because she's not spending her time communicating in those ways. She's really in the moment. She's staring at her window. She's looking at the rain clouds. She's staring at a bug. She's so present in the moment that it gives her the time to make these keen observations. And, you know, come to find out she does have a phone, and it does come up a little bit later. But I really enjoyed how present she was. Yeah, I even wrote, and this part really shocked me, is that I ended up wishing it wasn't over. Like, I was sad for it to end, but it's truly not ended, because this is something I need to come back to. There is more there that I didn't take the first time. And so I look forward to revisiting this a lot. And everything I just said and what I said at the beginning is still true. It's boring, nothing happens, it's hard to read. So do I think you need to read this? I don't know. I could easily not recommend this to someone, and I could easily recommend it to someone. Yeah, such an interesting journey where we ended up with this. But I'm happy to keep it. I'm happy to go back. Most of all, I'm happy I stuck with it and I didn't like give up on it, because for me, it's a net positive for sure. And I understand if you hate it. And there are parts of me still that hate it. To be alive. To be alive and have multitudes, a magnitude of multitudes. All right, bye.